I think it's an interesting topic, and before we kind of get down to having views from people, I think all of you would agree that I think the starting point of this whole premise that, how do you manage the cross-channel dilemma to enhance consumer experience? Quite a mouthful, but fact is the central to all this is really the consumer. And I think all of us know that, consumer journeys are no longer linear as they used to be, right? I mean, it's really complicated. People are jumping from channel to channel, platform to panel, platform to platform, screen to screen, online, offline. And given that, I think for a brand or an organization to really map this journey and deliver a seamless, user experience becomes absolutely critical. So what I'll do is I'll start with you, and if you could kind of, tell us your perspective from a Flipkart context in terms of how at Flipkart are you doing this? What are the unique challenges you're facing, and how is it that you're actually solving for these problems?
Yes, thanks, Sudhanshu. So, as you said, it is a challenge. There are multiple channels that we need, that we interact with customers today. This includes social channels like Facebook or Twitter. We do email marketing. We do push marketing, push notifications. There's other digital channels that we reach out to. We use TV, we use print, and there are other touch points such as our delivery service agents, our customer service executives, and we do need to deliver a consistent message across all of these channels. So, and at the scale at which we operate, we do need some technical solutions for this. And looking outside, we have not found a good solution. So I think there's space there to create one. And we are coming from the engineering side, we are creating some of these solutions in-house where we can try and, first of all, we need to have a single marketing head who's managing our campaigns across all of this so that the messaging is consistent. We also need to train our customer service executives and our delivery channels to carry the Flipkart brand message when they go meet the customers. And then to actually deliver the message across multiple channels, we need a consistent technology platform that creates different creatives that we need across channels, plus delivers across channels based on the goal that we have set for that campaign. It could be performance, it could be brand, and measures the ROI, measures the clicks across the different channels, and optimizes on that basis
basically strong focus on processes, internal realignment of people, unification of command, and accountability is what really kind of does the trick for you at
along
Flipkart.
with the technology platform.
Sure. I'll come to you, Sanjay. From an insurance and a financial services perspective, while it's a reality that people are actually researching online, purchasing offline, and vice versa, in financial services, 7 out of 10 cases, maybe more, are largely dependent on how agents and the field force are actually representing your brand in the field. And more often than not, in insurance, your brand is being represented by agents who are not really part of your own internal ecosystem. How do you specifically solve for that? How do you specifically manage that and ensure that the consumer gets a seamless and consistent user experience?
No, what you said is right. I think what is more important in today's context is looking at online, offline, offline,
Right.
online, and online. So all these 4 modes of purchase are actually happening for customer, and customer is still going through that awareness to purchase kind of journey. Like, if you look at McKinsey funnel, awareness, consideration, preference, most likely, and purchase. But now he can go through any channel. So rather than going from a particular this end to that end, so
Right.
today he can start at step 3. I can then come to step 2,
Absolutely.
depending on where he has got the information. It can be offline, as you said, an agent, or it can be on a website. It can be on a mailer. It can be on a social social media interaction kind of thing. And he can always come crisscross and come back and forth and really do that. So what you said, rather than addressing an agent per se, what we really understood now that customer doesn't go to now only one source to really get the information. He do a lot of crisscross in between and try to get the information. He might do some research. He might ask a friend. He might look at one of your communication. So what is important is how you can put consistent messages and contextual messages across, so that, let's say agent, just take one example. Let's say agent didn't give the right information, But when he has got a second interaction, he get the right information. The idea is that he should get the right interaction. He should buy for the right reason. So how you'll have not only just have the content in place, but context also in place. So that so I don't see, I expect, let's say if there is step 1 to 20 for the final purchase, he might come on step 15. So I should know on 15 he has come. So logically he should know about all 14 steps. If not, at 15 step he should get all 4. If you want, he can always do that and he can always go to purchase. So it is important to really cut the variation in discussion, and important to give a one consistent message is critical. So CRM plays a big role in that, in terms of, because, and also what we did for that, to cut that thing. So we, at the end point, we do a call center call to the customer before purchase to explain whatever you bought is right or wrong. So whether you have understood it correctly or not. So idea is, if you don't understand, you didn't get the right content, you still come, still someone will deliver the right content to you before you buy the product.
See, the point is, I agree with you. I couldn't agree with you more that, I think the attempt of the brand custodians, the marketing teams, really would be to kind of deliver this consistent platform and consistent user experience. But fact of the matter is, more often than not, most of the platforms that the consumer would be interacting with are beyond the control of the marketing. So for instance, it could be customer care, it could be the sales team, it could be the agency team in insurance. How do you control that? So for instance, on social media, online, your advertising and other multimedia platforms which is directly being impacted and controlled by you, maybe you and your direct team has a control over it, but you don't really have a control in terms of how the agency field force is delivering on the brand promise. So how do you tackle that?
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, see, agency, obviously you don't have any control. So
Sure.
you are given them, see, like in all traditional way, we give them the product literature, briefing, training, and ensure that they sell right. And we take calls if they're not selling right, but you still don't have any conversation detail of what exactly that guy has told. So that's what I said, like, when we don't convert the policy, unless we mention to the same content once again to the customer. I don't know how you, like, obviously I'm not saying that, this guy may not have given the right information. We just call saying that, hope you are buying this X product. Hope you understood these are the 10 key important things of this X product. Understood, then buying it. So what I'm saying, so today, tomorrow, if the agent knows that, the policy will not get converted unless this guy says yes, the customer says yes. So there is very unlikely chances that he'll give wrong information or hide information. So what we have seen, the behavior has really changed over a period of time. Obviously, it will not be zero, but around 4% cases we have seen that there is a mismatch in customer expectation versus what has been told to him. But it has come down to 4% level. Obviously, it will not be zero, but that's how you need to control it. Like, so that, so basically that idea is how you can communicate with customer directly and ensure that he get the right information.
Great. I'll come to you, Nitish, because you come from a very diversified background. So there's obviously your current avatar of automotive, right? But before that, you've spent large number of years in your previous avatars in retail and so on and so forth. I think again there in retail, like any other service, the last mile is very important, right? So as marketing, as product, as sales and marketing, you can control some touch point, but you can't control all touch points, right? So let's say in the case of auto or even retail, the people who are interfacing and who are really the carriers of your brand message and your product sort of core, how do you ensure that they are trained and empowered in the right fashion to deliver that seamless user experience? Would you want to just kind of share some best practices?
Subhrangshu, I think you're absolutely right when you're saying how do you control, this entire dilemma across channels.
Yeah.
And the cross-channel dilemma has always existed, right? Even before the digital world came into being. So, date back, let's say, to when I was selling electronics and appliances. As a manufacturer, you talked about features, the goodness of your product, how is the technology different from someone else. But finally, where the rubber hits the road is probably at the retail channel, where he finally wants to fulfill and sell. And his methodology of selling was very different from the way the manufacturer wanted it. So he would, do a lot of, he had a hidden agenda. And I'm sure that is what exists across a lot of industries. So he would tell the consumer, if the consumer asked for a particular brand, he would say, product acha hai, service kharab hai, right? Today, thankfully, with the digital world coming in, with social conversations happening, I think a marketer is got the ammunition to be closer to the consumer and be able to influence him.
Right.
I think what Vivek mentioned in the morning during his panel was very important. You know, all of us as marketers, we need to sensitize our team to get into conversations only if they have meaning for your brand. Otherwise, you don't just get into it, right? And that's, I think, very, very important. Uh, Coming back to when we're talking about, you know, how do you look at training people, how do you look at empowering people, I think a lot of that itself is what we did at Nissan, using the power of social media, not from a business to consumer point, but from
But
a
more from an internal
business to
ecosystem.
business.
Yeah.
So we had our own chats, we had our own automation tools, where we had a methodology of training using the buddy system. So let's say there's a dealer in Kerala who had done something great. We took those moments of truth and we beamed it across our own intranet, which is more of a Salesforce automation tool. More than that, it's about us as manufacturers wanting to influence good practices in terms of marketing and selling through the dealer, because finally we have to sell through a retailer, and the car has to be serviced through the retailer or the dealer. Many a times, a dealer does not just carry processes the way a manufacturer wanted to. So we again go back and use these as, you know, moments of truth. So a dealer who's done something very well, we beam it across, and we then invariably see that the other dealers kind of take
You
it.
showcase best
So
practices,
we showcase
celebrate victories.
best practices coming from their own groups.
Right.
And that's when it works best, right? So that's one thing. The other thing that most marketers do wrong is the immediate thing for people to say is, you know, let's change the organization structure and have, like, let's say what you're doing, because that's your core business, but we are in the real world as well. It's about having an experience officer. Now, the minute you create a...
Can I just hold on to that thought maybe, because I wanted to revisit that.
Right.
You know, before we do that, I had a question to Satyajeet. I'll
Right.
come back to you, Nitish,
Sure.
on this. So, Satyajeet, see, you are navigating Zomato now across what, 30 countries?
It's about 20 now.
Right. How do you manage that? So, you know, I mean, it's not just about cross channel, it's also about cross geographies, multiple channels within geographies, you know, different platforms, different media, different consumer segments. You want to share something with the audience here that
Yeah,
how do you
sure.
kind of manage that task, and how do you kind of, you know, deliver and enable the consumer in a seamless fashion?
Sure. So I think that's one of the challenges that we've been facing so far. We are at the moment, we are in 20 countries, and we would be launching 2 more in next few weeks. And we've been working across, you know, different time zones. These are different geographies. These are different cultures. And food is something, you know, which is very local. So probably even in, you know, you'll see that there's a difference between how people perceive or their eating habits, even in Gurgaon and Delhi. So, you know, you're talking about different time zones, different countries. We operate in, you know, several languages. So communicating across these different platforms, and you multiply it by, you know, the number of geographies that we work in, that's one of the biggest challenges that we face. The way we've been so far handling it is, like he said, you know, setting up a processes in place. So what we do is, one of the things that's helped us so far is everything is being managed in-house. So we've not outsourced any part of the communication, whether it's PR, brand communication, social media handling, whatever limited customer support that we have. Everything is being managed in-house. And whenever we do a hiring in all those countries that we're working in, the guys who are representing Zomato, to the audience there who are, you know, who would be representing us in different markets, we make sure that, you know, we give them a proper induction. So we never do a remote hiring. So whenever we do a key hiring, especially in the brand communication part, we make sure that they come on board. They spend some time with the head office here in Gurgaon. We walk them through, you know, on the way we communicate with the users, what are the key goals that we are trying to achieve, and we train them through a longer period of time, handhold them for some time, and then we, you know, kind of transfer them to different
So
markets.
it's a model choice. If I hear you, I think if the panel hears you, It's a model choice that you've made.
Yeah.
And the choice is that you've decided to insource in order to
Yeah.
keep it consistent,
Consistent
across
across
the
all
board.
geographies, yeah.
Now, not all of us, have that option and that choice always. We actually work with multiple stakeholders, multiple partners, multiple agencies, and I think more importantly, within an organization, there's not just one set of people managing this entire experience, right? So there's sales and marketing, obviously. There's customer care, there's IT, there's back office, and so on and so forth, operations. Most people, like marketing and sales, are intrinsically maybe more consumer oriented in their thinking, right? But most others, the way their DNA is, the way their thinking process is, they are more inside out than outside in. How do you solve for that? So, can I just come back to you and maybe take Sanjay's views on this?
Well,
And I'll come to you on this.
okay. What you basically mentioned about is the culture of the organization.
Right.
So what is important for, again, the culture is set mostly from the top management. And it's important to understand, like, why in a current context it is important and how it is affecting businesses and how new businesses are getting created. Because, see, for example, Flipkart and Zomato is a very good example. They understand customer better. So from nowhere, they really created a business and they built the bigger businesses. And today, Chroma must be thinking why people are not really coming to my e-commerce store and buying, and why they're going to Flipkart.
Sure.
So I think the management is now getting it. It is not that it is not like 5 years back or 10 years back. Nobody when you talk about that in the boardroom, people don't understand. But many companies don't know how to go about it. As you rightly said, what most of the company define is this is what customer want, and as long as we are providing that incremental higher thing every year, and the customer is generally happy and he'll stay with you. But with digital coming in, that's why social listening is a very great tool. If you just play those social listening and, in the management boardrooms and all, most of the people become much more sensitive to what customer is talking. Because most of the times, and actually you don't listen what customer is saying. You just listen. Previously during our FMCG days, we used to do field visit to really understand what the distributor...
Listen to the consumer, what the trade says and so
But
on.
with the social listening, you can actually get the data every day.
Real time.
You can do real time, you can get sentiment. People are really complaining. And people are also smart. In a cross-channel example, they know that, if I normal customer service complaint resolution is 5 stages.
But if I tweet, I might
tweet,
just
I
get a
might get in a
response
2 stages. If I tweet with the CEO's name, then I get a first stage resolution. So people have understood that, and companies are also understanding that, and that's why it is important. As I said, if I put a framework, what is important is engage, educate, and execute. That's a framework which companies need to work today. You have to engage with people. You have to listen. See, previously, we used to get one-way communication. All our advertisement, all our speaks, PR talks are one-way. But now it is two-way, are much more important. You have to listen, and you have to communicate, and you have to educate. See, in our business, the primary reason why the customer is unhappy, not because of the product performance, because the person thought he bought something else. So how we'll continuously educate, use the social channels to educate. So what we have done internally is that, we have done a core group kind of thing. So we have put customer service people in it. Obviously, the one thing, sales, as you said, and an agent and, the third party distribution network is still not in it. True. But whatever we can actually, internally we can control, we have put a core group into it and put all the communication into it so that, whatever goes out of the company or whoever customer comes and reaches, they actually communicate the same thing. So over the period of time, we believe that will be something which will take care of all this problem.
You're saying even organizations are traversing down this path.
Yeah.
For them,
and
it's a learning, it's a journey.
Yeah.
The cultural reorientation is happening.
Yeah.
And people are revisiting some of the traditional structures which we've normally seen in organizations.
Yeah.
So
like in a normal case, marketing has nothing to do with customer service. But with social listening, marketing is leading the social listening, because in normal way, people think, responding to a customer complaint, in 24 hours is really good at. But in a social, you have to respond, the customer is expecting within 15 or 30 minutes, someone should respond back to him. And he doesn't expect a response, I'll get back to you. He expects someone to really give a resolution.
Yeah.
So, and the resolution has to be closed in public, not in private. So, see, all these things I know teams are learning, and I think that change is definitely happening.
So you're saying marketing probably is playing the role of that facilitator within the group, within the organization, to bring about this change. So there is the role of a Sherpa or an orchestrator, whatever you might want to call that.
Yeah.
I'd like to give you 2 examples, Subhrangshu. One is, of course, since everyone's excited about e-tail, the one company I've seen who is in the offline space and the online space is Best Buy in the United States. So here we are all, the Chromas and the Reliance Digitals of the world are trying to grapple with how do they compete with the Flipkarts and the Amazons of the world. So what Best Buy did is, this was again through their own social listening, and it's also about how they were able to integrate all their functions together. So they ran a deployment on their online property, where you could buy a product online, and they made it cheaper than online if you do a store pickup, right? And it was not, it just didn't end there. So you could select the store you want to pick it up from, and when you selected the store, you purchase the product online. What they did to gratify and delight the consumer is a consumer could print out a token, which was a parking token. So you bought the product online, you went to the store to pick it up, you had a token which you showed because this was a curbside pickup. So you could park your car in the front row,
Right.
go inside, your product was ready, and you picked it up. They also passed on the fact that they were not delivering as a sweetener to the consumer, and that, I think, was a very good way of countering a pure online property. Right? Now, let me also give you an example of what we did in Nissan. So we, in the car business, always have a patent issue about when there is a model change. There's obviously stock that has to be liquidated from a dealership, right? Before the new model comes in. We took the advantage of the Google shopping festival, and we looked at what is the inventory that is carried at specific dealers. Of course, you can't do it cross-state because of taxation issues. And we let the consumer buy the product with a certain sweetener. So that sweetener was either an additional warranty, or it was actually a price. And we were
some
able...
hook and some incentive
There
for
was a hook.
expedite the purchase process.
We sold 60 cars in one day. Okay, so that itself was a revelation to us. The dealers, the instant reaction was they were up in arms against the brand, because they thought we were going to go with another channel. And then it took a lot of training and a lot of mentoring with our own team to talk to the dealer and tell him that what we're doing is facilitating you to make sure that your inventory moves out, so that you get the new model, we can launch it in time. And that becomes another enabler for the consumer to look at, how do you get closer to the brand with a better experience.
I'll come back to you. Ashish, to your point, I think at Flipkart, you were sharing with the group that you have something called the Chief Consumer Experience Officer, right? I think, I think critical is, see, from a consumer standpoint, when she's going on Flipkart, it's not just the portal, right? It's not just the shopping experience, but the entire fulfillment process. More often than not, as we've seen, there has been, negative press around how people experienced, what the experience was when the product was being delivered. There were post-purchase issues, and so on and so forth. And most of these cases are actually being front-ended by third party. They're not necessarily part of the Flipkart ecosystem, direct ecosystem. How do you ensure consistency? What are the steps and measures you've taken? And you were saying that, you've leveraged technology. Would you want to share it with the group?
Yes. So first of all, at the scale at which we operate, even a 0.1% error rate, even though percentage-wise it's a small number, in terms of number of people affected, it may be quite large.
Right.
And what happens in these situations is that when somebody has a negative experience, they immediately go to Twitter and Facebook and start posting. And when people, the vast majority that has had a positive experience, may not actually go and start posting that.
So for instance, just to kind of stop you there are instances where people buy perfumes and likes, on online portals. I'm not saying Flipkart, but there is this consumer sentiment and belief that, most perfumes online are fake. They're not genuine.
So
if you go to social media, there's a whole lot of banter around that.
So,
how do you tackle that?
Okay, so
is there a process that you screen vendors, screen suppliers?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let me answer, you asked me multiple questions. Let me answer some of them.
Okay.
So first of all, regarding a customer support, or customer experience head, right? So we did recently hire an SVP of customer experience because there are multiple touch points that like you said, that the customer goes through, and through the order, the payment, the delivery, maybe even a return. And you are as good as your weakest link. So if any of these experiences suffers, then the customer has had a bad experience.
Correct.
So the customer experience post is very important in that he works across, he has the authority to work across various channels, make sure that they are all thinking in a customer first way. And I also agree with what Sanjay said in terms of culture, right? So the culture of customer first needs to be the basic cultural tenet across the organization, and that has been true across Flipkart. So that is one. The second question you asked is regarding, some seller abusing and selling a fake product or something like that, and that sometimes happen. Again, it's a scale issue. With 100,000 sellers, there could be one or two that may not be genuine, right? So we do go through a pre-check on because trust we feel wins in the long run. So we definitely want to have the trust of the customer. So we make sure that all sellers go through some checking when we onboard them, and they don't, so that they don't indulge in such practices. But having said that, if somebody is selling a fake product, there is a feedback system which is automated, where if somebody complains, then the feedback goes right back, and the seller may end up getting banned. There may be one morning, and if it happens again, the seller gets banned. We have banned a number of sellers, right? Training is a big part of this as well, because we are working with sellers, we are working with third-party delivery people. So there needs to be a consistency of training. This culture of customer first needs to be communicated very strongly to all of these people as well. So I think those are the few things we're doing there.
Satyajeet, you want to add something to that? Because, as a new age business, how do you do that? And how do you kind of ensure, because you are a recommendatory platform, right? You're an enabler. As an enabler, you don't have any direct control over the end consumer experience, which you probably would have recommended. So how do you ensure that brand Zomato is protected? How do you ensure that brand Zomato stands for what it promises? How do you control the process?
So the way we do that is that we've been trying to be as neutral as possible in all the communication that we do. So we stay away from, promoting any restaurant through any social channels that, all the recommendations that we do to the user are also, based on an algorithm. We don't recommend, or we don't, differentiate between one restaurant to the other. We try to be as neutral as possible as far as the platform is concerned. But what happens usually is that, and people have been using Zomato for a very long time, so now they've kind of understood that, it's just a medium to consume that information. But still, like you said, we still have to manage that communication across, different mediums to the user. And social media has kind of helped us in doing that, because now that communication is real time. So, if there is a doubt with any user, or, he has a bad experience with any, particular restaurant, he want to associate that to Zomato, there is a medium wherein, we can reach out to them and we can, clarify those doubts, which was not the case before that. So, if somebody had any doubt, he had any query, or he had, any frustration related to any experience, he had in a particular place, which was, provided by an enabler. There was no place for him to, probably vent out that frustration or that experience, and there was no way for the organizations also to reach out to him. Now with social media available, there is a channel for us, if there is a communication which we want to broadcast, maybe we can just write a blog post about it, and which reaches out to everyone there. If there is any user who's, reached out to us on a Twitter or on Facebook, there is an opportunity for us to go back and, iron out his issues related to whatever queries that he has.
Sure. And structurally, as you earlier said, you're trying to solve for this by having a universal team, a common team at your HO in Delhi.
So we don't have a...
you really don't have outsourced partners?
So we have not outsourced consumer experience, any aspect of consumer experience so far. We do hire locally because what happens...
in specific geographies.
In specific geographies, because the communication that happens in probably a London or a New Zealand, or in some cases wherein it's localized in case of Manila or let's say Jakarta, we might not be able to handle it from here, because we may not be able to understand the language itself, leave apart the sentiment. So we do hire local guys to solve those queries locally. But what we made sure is they are, they are inducted well in the culture itself. And we kind of incentivize them the right way. So, as we talked about earlier, that how do we make sure that the last mile experience, there is a little bit of control on the last mile experience. So what we've done as an organization is that we've tried to make sure that all the teams across the board are incentivized for the right reason. So, I mean, even if, take an example for a team like technology, we don't have a QA team in-house. So, I mean, they're responsible entirely for the user experience, and they're being rated for the number of probably the bugs being reported in the product. So everyone on board across the teams are, being being incentivized for the right reason. And
basically what you're saying is even your HR processes, reward and recognition processes are being relooked at, reoriented to deliver the end consumer experience, right? A balanced scorecard.
So not even the HR practices. So I mean, probably we
basically the way you incentivize people, recognize people, reward them.
They are reward and recognition. So let's say even for marketing also,
right?
We would not incentivize a marketer or our digital team to just source a download. We would want to incentivize them or measure them in terms of the engaged users they're acquiring.
Got it.
So kind of aligning their incentives as per the consumer experience.
So basically what you're saying is reorienting internally first to deliver excellence externally, right? Okay, I think we are just running short of time. So what I'll do is I'll start with you, Ashish. If you could just kind of, for the benefit of the audience here, just tell us 2 or 3 things which will enable companies to really win going forward in terms of delivering a unique, seamless, consistent experience.
Yeah, so I mean, today's world, I think it's reality that there are multiple channels that we have to work with. So one is to have a same team that is working across multiple channels, not operating in silos. Do have a customer experience officer who's at the highest level, who can create consistent customer experiences and make sure customer experience is great across various touch points.
Wonderful.
And from a culture perspective, I think we do need to train people, have it part of the cultural tenet, that customer first, and across all verticals, that needs to be a cultural tenet.
Sanjay?
No, I think digital organizations give a very good mirror to the most of the other, what we call as offline organization, or like the way the organization run before. I think it is important, as Ashish said, all these things are important. I just add on, if I have to really put a mantra for the companies, including my companies, engage, educate, and execute. Because no point just putting a team, but unable to execute, or your front end guy cannot really take that call. So it is also important to empower people so that they can look at customer and and understand that understand that they are, like as a company, ensure that they have got the right understanding and they can deliver that experience on a consistent basis across touch points and wherever, like as you say, cross channel, whichever mode he is coming, and he knows the content and he knows the context also. It's not very easy. So and what we have done, differently in the sense for a digital, we have created a small organization within organization. And we actually try out all these things. And once it's slightly mature, then we actually give it to the main organization or the bigger organization for us to really replicate. Which
so encourage people to take small baby steps.
Yeah. And we close end to end. In the sense, in the digital space, we close the end to end where we have got slightly more control. But you can see the difference. Then the other side of the organization, then they feel much more confident of taking their steps, because every time you take a customer-centric step, there is a lot of discussion about cost. There is a lot of discussion what value
P&L feasibility and so on and so forth.
So you can see this difference here, and you can really replicate in other place.
Great, thanks, Sanjay. Nitish.
So I'm the only one who is got a product assortment where I have to worry about the lifetime value of the customer, because the journey with cars or durables only starts when you sell, and it's on till he either resells the product.
Even insurance. I mean,
there's a lot of attrition.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. So I think 3 things. One is, while everyone talks customer first, it's very important to mind map the entire customer journey.
Got it.
And then sensitize your organization. So I wouldn't say have a common team. I would say operate with cross-functional teams. Get teams within, create teams across functions
And get them to rally around
and
a
get
cause
them
or
to
a
rally out
purpose.
for the common cause, which is the entire customer journey across the lifetime value of that customer.
Right.
And the third and the most important thing is, while I agree with Sanjay about empowering your team, empowering the person who's interfacing with the consumer, it's also very important to recognize that person on social media, so that has a better connect with the consumer, which will finally result into an affinity for your brand.
Thanks. Good. Satyajeet?
Yeah, so a couple of points from my side. So I think most of them are being covered by the panel itself. But one thing that I've seen people probably miss out on is identifying the touch points to begin with. So brands are not built only on a mass media channel or the popular channels like a TV or an email, the way you're communicating with the user in person, but even at a very small instances and the way you are giving the error messages on your site, or the way you're writing the app reviews for review notes for your apps. So make sure that you identify all these touch points in which where a brand is communicating to the user. That's probably the first one. Second is whether it's a in-house guy or you're outsourcing it. Whether that's the guy is part of the marketing team or product team, or it's a separate department altogether, like what Flipkart is doing. But we need to make sure that there is someone who's responsible for the consumer experience, and everyone knows that person, that who that person is. I mean, so everyone in the organization is aware of that. If they have any doubt, there is a go-to person. So that they can check with him or her before sending out that communication. And the third point is incentivizing for the right reason. So make sure that
Great.
people are being incentivized for the right
Thanks, sir.
reasons.
Thanks. So I think before we kind of, obviously open it up for questions and discussions, so basically what all of you are saying, and I think all of us are suggesting, is that it's going to be a journey, it's not going to be easy. But the starting point really has to be internal first to deliver externally at a superlative level. Right? Thanks very much. We'll open it for questions. Any questions, please? Please identify yourself and you can kind of address it to any or all of the speakers. Sure. We have a mic.
Thank you for the nice understanding of the subject.
Sir, could you please identify yourself?
My name is Rakesh Bhatia. I thought I'll say that afterwards. Anyway, customer experience as we talk about. Unfortunately, if we talk to the same company at two different times, say one before in the first shift and the second time in the second shift, you cannot imagine the variety of the answers that you get for the same question. Now, when we say we have trained the organizational people inside to give a great customer experience, I'm sure there's a lot to be done inside. Thank you.
Right? Anybody wanted to take that? No, we couldn't agree with you more. And as I said, it's a very valid point.
No, I think what you said is very valid. I don't think any member in the panel really disagree with you. I don't think we have really reached that point in terms of we can actually give a seamless experience across touch point, be it for what we call as a commerce, like an online purchase, or for loyalty or for customer service. We have not really reached that stage. But what is important for us to understand is companies are realizing that, and many companies are working towards it. So we see the example of Zomato or Flipkart. I'm just taking their name because they're in the panel. Obviously, in their vertical, really they have done a great job, which is obviously which will motivate other companies in that same genre to really replicate that. Companies outside, we are also following what, we are trying to see what Flipkart is doing. How can we replicate that experience for our customers? So eventually it will change. But good thing that the awareness has really come, and companies are definitely working towards it.
I mean, I would love to see the day when technology can, energize and work with people the way your friendly neighborhood grocer works, where the minute you have a consumer who's addressed an issue with a company, you have one guy who addresses his problems across all the problems. So I'm sure there will be a day which will come.
I think let's take the next one. Yeah.
So we'll come back to
All right, no worries.
You want to answer first? I can wait. I'm Navneet. I'm part of Oracle. A very simple question, and this is mainly to Sanjay and Nitish. Do you think more and more channels which are coming up where I as a consumer can talk to your brand, is it good or bad? And if it is, how are you making sure that you are incorporating that, and how do you view these more and more channels coming up?
Well, as I think Nitish said that before, I don't think previously also less channels were actually ever existed for any company. I was in FMCG, I think Subhrangshu will also agree. When a customer, he can buy from a distributor, he can buy from a wholesaler, he can buy from a neighborhood store, and particularly there are rural marketing, people come and cycle and deliver the same good at your place. So the channels are always there, and channels will continue to be there. What is important for company is that can you really benchmark customer experience on one or two particular channel, and say that, see, today, because of online, I can tell customer, you want to get the best product, you want to get the best experience, come to online. So if you come to the online, I'm guaranteeing everything you are actually getting. All the other places I'm trying. So if you want to see the differential service that is there. So today, if the online is providing that service, obviously offline channel will continue to provide that better service to really match up. So like we always say that TV coming in, print will go out, nothing happens. Similarly, like retail outlet coming in, neighborhood store will die, or like Flipkart coming in, so that Big Bazaar will die. All those things will never going to happen. Everybody will improve their services. Everybody will find their niche where the customer will find, for this reason I should go there. I think it will make the channels much more competitive, and at the end of the day, I think customer will be the winner.
Just to add to that, I'm not an advocate of exclusivity. So I'll be more than happy if there are multiple channels, and there is no exclusivity even in products like automobile retail. I'm sure a consumer would be very happy to shop in a multi-brand outlet. Now there are challenges, but if they're addressed, because at the end of the day, the consumer's anyway shopping. So why not let him shop at one place?
Yeah, so I agree that multiple channels definitely are good for the consumer, because today there's no hiding, right? So if a brand does something wrong, it's going to get on social and it's going to go viral in a few minutes. So
people need to basically get their act
so
together.
people need to get their act together, brands, marketeers, everybody.
Satyajeet, you wanted to add something?
No, I think that's enough. So so what he mentioned, what you were talking about earlier was the different kind of user experience you have when you talk to different persons in different shifts. So that's still you're talking to a different person. If you speak to the same person at different point of the day, probably you could get a different response. So it's a long time before we can standardize a customer experience. So what we are probably working towards is try to reduce the human interaction as much as possible. So banks have come up with ATMs wherein you don't have to talk to an individual, and we try to reduce that interaction as much as possible through technology.
All right.
Spoon-feeding everyone.
Yeah, the lady there at the back.
Yeah, this is Hita from Digital Market Asia. My question is, when we are comparing India and with its Western counterpart, in terms of consumer experience, what has happened in the West is they were trying to carry forward the web experience of different services and applications to mobile. Whereas in India, it's a mobile first screen, so we have just the first place where we were introduced was the app ecosystem. So do you think there is a difference between the consumer experience in how we see it in the West when they were trying to carry forward web to mobiles, and in India where it was first the mobile app ecosystem?
Well, so at Flipkart, mobile is obviously our biggest channel and very important for us. And you're right. So I think India has the opportunity to leapfrog West, as we have done in several other areas, where we can start with mobile and make sure that the mobile experience is the best here. So a lot of innovation around mobile will happen here, because we are not shackled by need not be shackled by the web as much as people are in the West. So I think you'll start seeing much more innovative solutions coming up on mobile coming out of India.
Okay. Yeah, with you, the gentleman. Yeah.
My question is a little complex, and I guess the panel here would be able to address that. In a country like India, where geographies and service level expectations differ from in every 200 kilometers. How do you standardize a consumer experience, especially in a manufacturing and a product company?
Well, you know, a lot of this talk has happened, but if you really go deep down, I don't think anything is different. I mean, if you go to the Western world, I mean, most of the people who talk about the Western world talk about the New Yorks and Londons of the world, but go to any of the other counties or you go to any of the villages, the psyche is the same. Yeah, so maybe the values and lifestyles are different, but the consumer demand is very much the same. So I don't think anything is very, very different. All one needs to do is just to make sure that, you know, and this is the power that we have today, we can really think surgical and on a hyper-local basis. So I think the Western world is learning about how to address their problem by looking at India.
So while your strategies may differ from market to market, audience to audience, but at a philosophical level, the overlay has to be consistent.
I
Right?
think when we are talking about a great customer experience, everybody in every region wants a great customer experience. So in that sense, I think if you plan
Does
for
that-
that, we should be able to address most regions.
Just to add to it, so I mean, you said that service level would vary from different geographies. So I mean, there is no practical solution at the moment available to make sure that there is a same service level operationally across different geographies because of the regional constraints. But one of the ways to make sure that there is a consistent user experience is to set the right expectations. So you don't say the same promises to the guys in different geographies. So you tell them beforehand that if you are ordering this product, it will probably reach you in 2 weeks, rather than saying that we have 1-day delivery across all market.
Okay, thanks. I think we have time only for these many questions. The rest, I think all of us are available offline. More than happy to take it up offline. Thanks very much. And thanks all. Thanks for the panel. Thank you.
Thank you very much.